Hi.
Alright, hello guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're brand new here, my name is Nikki and this is my book nook. And oh my goodness guys, I have a book that I'm so excited to talk to you about today because it needs more hype. I have not seen it anywhere. My friend Ashley recommended this book to me because she knows I'm obsessed with hockey. I'm obsessed with the hockey romance, and she also knows her and I really share a deep mutual love for dark romance, spicy romance, and she's like, Nikki, this book, you need it in your life. It is made for you. It is Brutal Obsession by Massery. And when she told me all of this, I was like, Ashley, say less. I'm adding it to my cart right this minute. And oh my God, she couldn't have been more right. This book is so freaking good. It is so twisted. It's so messed up. It just has every element of everything that I love. Like really, it's just the best. I need more people talking about it. I needed to have more hype because it's on the level of like so many of these spicy bully romances that we know and love, like Penelope Douglas level things happening here. It's just so good and I have so much to say about it. So I want to do my usual thing where I give you guys a spoiler-free synopsis in the beginning to try to convince you to read this book, and then after that I will dive a little bit deeper, go into spoilers. So if you haven't yet read this book, at that point you will leave and then you will read it and then you will come back and we will have our little book club moment because oh my goodness, there's so much to say. I can't wait to get into it. Let's go. So this story follows this boy named Grayson and this girl named Violet. And when I tell you that it literally hooks you from the very first page, it just jumps right into the thick of everything. The prologue is only a few pages long, but by the time you finish it, you're just like, okay, this is gonna be a good book. But pretty much the story opens up and we meet Grayson, because this is a dual point of view story, but we meet Grayson and we learn that he is the son of a senator. He's grown up, very rich, very spoiled, very entitled, never had to worry about anybody but himself, and he's also a superstar hockey player. And Grayson is just having one of his normal nights out on the town, you know, drinking, hanging out with friends, hanging around girls. And long story short, because I don't want to like get into it too much in this exactly what happened, but he ends up crossing paths with Violet and he makes some poor decisions, and by the end of the night he ends up in jail. And then from there, we jump forward and we are now at Violet's perspective, and she is returning back to college for, you know, the first time, because she's had to have some time away for, you know, some personal reasons. And now she is returning to her school and she is a ballerina. She's been on the dance team. She has danced her entire life, but now she's coming back to school. Some things have changed for her. And she learns from her friends while they were out one night that they're gonna be hanging out with some of the, you know, fellow athletes, and that the hockey team has a new star hockey player and she just has to meet him. And whenever she comes face to face with him, she realizes that it is Grayson, and he is now going to her school, and he is intent on seeking his revenge on her because he feels, you know, it's her fault that he ended up in jail and his life really got messed up from that. He was a star on his, you know, college hockey team and he was NHL bound. But because of what happened, because he ended up in jail, the college didn't want to associate with him anymore, kicked him off the team. But because he is a superstar, you know, this other college snatched him up right away. But still, like, things are not the same as they were for him. She's really made his life difficult, even though, like, in reality, this situation is, like, his fault. He doesn't care. Like, he's pissed. He is going to make it his mission to make Violet's life hell. And that is literally what the story is about. Like, this is a bully romance through and through. Grayson is ruthless. Like, every possible form of bullying that you can imagine, like from the lightest form of like name calling, just like a little public humiliation, you know, destroying her reputation, to like, you know, more physical stuff, more on the verge of like really not okay stuff happens. It gets dark, it gets twisted, you know, and obviously, as to be expected with this type of romance, he, you know, hates her with everything in him. But like over time, as time goes on, even though the two both like hate each other, like an attachment starts to form, a bit of a like Stockholm syndrome, but also a bit of like a, you know, I hate you and I don't want you, but like also nobody else can have you sort of thing. Like Grayson gets very, you know, possessive over Violet, and oh my god, it's just a treat to watch unfold. This has some really dark themes in it. It's for sure, you know, it's very twisted. Like I said, if you have some like certain trigger warnings you're concerned about, I might recommend looking them up, because like I promise it crosses that line. It gets really, really wild, but oh my god, this book had me kicking and screaming, you guys. I, you know, went to start it. It was like 11 o'clock at night, and I was like, let me just like read the first 30 pages or so before I start to get ready for bed. I literally sat on this couch and I feral read the first 150 pages, didn't take a sip of water, didn't breathe, didn't blink. I couldn't put it down. I was like, oh my god, every single chapter just like ended with you being like, what is gonna happen next? And then because it does have like that dual point of view, you're jumping back and forth, like both of them are kind of like keeping things from each other, and there's just a lot involved in this story, and it just kept me on the edge of my seat the entire time. You know, also like I'm a big fan of hockey. I love hockey romances, and I love that this book actually included like a fair bit of hockey, like nothing too intense. Like if you're not a hockey fan, don't like worry. But you know, you got to see Grayson like on the ice a lot, and like at practice, and like, you know, at games and stuff. And it just, let me just say, there was a scene that occurred in this book that frankly was just from like maybe one of my wildest personal fantasies, and to see it written out and in front of me, I was just like, oh my goodness, like it was so crazy, so good. I think this book deserves so much more hype. I love that I could kind of combine like my love of sports romance, hockey romance, you know, enemies to lovers, and then just like add in the dark and twisted elements that I love from like a lot of other books. Just like a really suspenseful story. If you're into any of the things that I've talked about, you're gonna love this book, and I cannot wait for the next one to come out, because it's about another player on the team, and it is like a forbidden romance type of situation. Like I saw the synopsis on Instagram the other day, and I was like, oh my god, I'm going to read it immediately. So if you haven't gotten the memo yet, like I'm fully recommending this book. It is the best bully romance I have ever read. And now I would love to talk a little more in depth about it. So if you have not yet read this, now is your cue to exit. Go read it. It's on Kindle Unlimited, so no excuses. Go read it and then come back and we will chat about it a little more in depth. But yeah, guys, for those of you that have read this book, oh my god, that initial prologue, whenever, you know, they get in the car accident, and then like I knew the very basic synopsis of this book. I knew that, you know, Grayson went to jail. I knew that he blamed it on Violet, but I didn't realize that it was the car accident situation. I didn't realize, you know, that she was a dancer. Like I figured, because I saw like once I bought the book, I saw the like ballet shoes on the front, but like when I realized that she was a dancer, and in the car accident, you know, she got injured, and that was like going to, you know, practically destroy her ballet career, like that just added a whole other element to it. Like I love that they were both like athletes in their own right, and that they both were like really like great at what they do, and that Grayson like took that away from Violet. And you know, the whole like added element of like the NDA and her, like his family threatening her family to like ruin them, and how like she can't even afford treatment, and that he like truly ruined her life, and now he's intent on like ruining it even more. I mean, just the way that he was so awful to her, and I ate it up. I mean, again, from just like the name calling to literally just humiliating her, posting that video online for everyone to see, him just like basically stalking her, following her home. Y'all, that initial scene where he like followed her home from the bar after like humiliating her, and then shoved her up against that wall, and things happened, I was like squirming in my seat. I was like, holy shit. And then like the library scene that followed shortly after, where he said he was craving her again, and like I loved watching it unfold. I loved seeing the gradual sort of like development of Grayson's hate for Violet, and him just like wanting to destroy her, to him like, you know, starting to feel possessive over her. When that scene happened in the locker room after the game, I went through 7 stages of grief. I was like, what is happening here? First of all, like, okay, I knew the book was twisted, but then whenever he did the whole like threatening her, you know, blackmailing her, getting her on video, breaking the NDA, and you know, he was making her satisfy his friend Steele. I didn't know how to feel about that for the first 2 seconds, because I was like, okay, I mean, here for the drama, but also like I wanted him to be possessive. Like I wanted him to like not want anybody else to touch her, right? So I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. And then, you know, she was the bad bitch that she was and was like, I'll show you, like I'll test you. And then seeing his reaction and seeing his like internal battle, and then him being like, that's the last man you'll ever touch that isn't me. I was screaming, kicking my feet and screaming. I was dying over it. And then just from there, what I loved, and this is just a general thing for me, I freaking love an enemies to lovers story, obviously, but I feel like enemies to lovers, you know, with like book talk blowing up, with the book community blowing up, like I feel like, you know, the authors, whoever, like they know we love enemies to lovers. So I feel like so many books nowadays are like marketed as enemies to lovers, when in reality they're not. It's like a grumpy man, and then, you know, they have like one slightly not nice initial interaction, and then by like page 10 they're both like super attracted to each other and like perfectly nice, and they're not enemies. So I can really appreciate when a story is a genuine enemies to lovers, where, you know, even if they have their moments where you can see them kind of like internally struggling and feeling like, okay, am I kind of attracted to you? Like I like that 5 minutes later it's back to like at arms with each other, even though Grayson might have like shown some niceness here and there and like, you know, made Violet like feel good for a second. Next chapter he's back to, don't forget your place, like I own you, you'll do whatever I say. And I loved it. I loved it so much. I will say, like, my only sort of like criticism of this story is I just felt like it got a little bit in the weeds at times. I felt like there was a lot going on, like the whole side story of her having a stalker. Like I did think it was cool that we obviously thought that like Grayson was the one that was breaking into her room, but then whenever it was like revealed that it wasn't him, like that was kind of a cool switch up to be like, oh, there's like something else going on here. But when all this stuff started happening with like the ballet and like revealing what happened the night that she got in the accident, and her having some sort of like weird form of amnesia that I'm still a little bit confused about, and then the whole thing with, you know, the Mia girl and like the cabin in the woods, like that was like a bit like all over the place for me. I was just like, I don't know if we needed this entire like side quest. I just like, it wasn't my focal point of the story, and I get you need like some sort of like conflict and like point of contention or whatever, but between that and then like the whole thing with like Grayson's dad and Violet's mom, and Violet, I guess, using like stealing her drugs from the hospital when she was in the hospital, like taking her painkillers, and then stealing money from Grayson's dad to like use more drugs, and like when that whole moment happened at the game where they were like in his suite, like I just felt like whatever chunk of the story that was, I felt like that was like a lot going on for me, and I found myself just kind of like skimming through those parts because I'm like, what is happening? But I mean, it was good. I just think it was a lot. But regardless, clearly like didn't deter me. You know, I just thought the pacing was so good. Like when it finally got to the point where like Grayson like realized like, holy shit, like when it switched from the hate to the love in the way that it did, and when he just became such a like simp for her, and he whenever she like switched up and she accidentally like said that they were dating, and then she was like, shit, like we're not dating, like what, like we haven't discussed this, and then he was like, isn't dating too casual for what we are? Like you were like my everything, like you were my heart and soul, like I burn for you sort of thing. Like I freaking loved it. I was obsessed with how obsessed he was with her, and you know, telling off his dad at the end and all of that, and then the little show they put on in front of the whole team. Like I had no complaints. I had no complaints about any of that. Overall, like I just thought this was so good. I'm so interested to check out more by S. Massery. Again, the next book is coming out. I think it's called Devious Obsession, and it's about Steele, and I guess this one night stand that he has with this girl that ends up being his stepsister. Oh, there was like the tiniest hint in this book that like something was going on with Steele whenever Violet asked him like, is there anybody that you feel like some type of way about? And you could tell he had like a moment of hesitation. So I assume he's thinking about his sister dearest in that moment. So very excited for it. The cover is like equally beautiful for that one. It's like purple and oh, like I'm very, very excited to own it. And I'm so excited that I have like a hockey romance book now that is like fulfilling my dark and spicy desires. So yeah, guys, I loved this book. If you have read it, which I hope you have, if you made it this far, I would love to hear all your thoughts down below. If you've read any of S. Massery's other books, please let me know if they're worth reading. At the end, I read part of this like on my Kindle. I ended up like finishing it on my Kindle. And this like suggestion popped up for her, like another series she has that's like a bully romance set in high school. I'm kind of intrigued, like if she did this one so well, I feel like she does other things well. So if you've read that, if you have any other suggestions for, you know, dark bully romances, let me know. But yeah, guys, that is it for me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you very soon. Bye.